playing the ostrich. You also find that according to Senate leader, Southeast, South senators demand new states. More in the Nigerian Tribune newspaper, China prepared to lend more. FG PDP. Lion kills 35-year-old antler at Obasanjo Presidential Library Zoological Garden. FG ends over 60 labor unions. NANS, you will find LG poll. Court orders Rivers Electoral Commission to use 2023 voter register. You find that and more in the Nigerian Tribune newspaper for today.
All right, so from the Nigerian Tribune, let's check the leadership. On the leadership is this October 1st protest. Hold dialogue with protesters now. CSOs tell Tinubu the varsity students oppose plan. Police assure of adequate security. Federal government distributes the 4 CNG buses to workers, students. Find details of that on 4 of the leadership this morning. And stop northern women from leadership this morning. Lawyers unveil tool for legal practice. Find details on page 4 of leadership. I think that is a developing one, and that's a progress. Lawyers unveil AI tool for legal practice. All right, and still on the leadership on page 25, ways and means provide actual figures. Experts tell CBN. In the sue very dark man for 1 billion naira damages. Find details on page 7 of the leadership this morning. Blank loss can't sustain local government autonomy, says Undumi. All right, you see how when on page 9, 1 million naira extortion. Please make today. Find details of that on page of the leadership, and also the one that we read to you earlier on about 2.5 million dying of heart diseases annually. Find details of that on page 20 of the leadership, and that will be all from the
on the front page of the Punch, October protest. Please man flashpoints. APC of clash. Riders command on me as PDP LP berate yourself minimum panels if morning Naira for beginning that pipeline in the monitors 9 years. You also also find have surpassed Gators achievement of Rivers Blazers team at Osrc. And of course, we're counting down to the 14th Union Pro Skills keep Obasanjo top 6 memoranda to National Assembly. Nigeria for chief service. And that
Northern youth vow to join October 1st protest. Find details of that on page 7 of the Daily Independent. And still on page 7, police investigate death of man at Obasanjo's Zoological Garden. And this one was on page 7. Federal government launches 350 billion naira initiative to tackle Nigeria's flood challenges. ASU asks Nigerians to prevail on federal government to avert looming strike. We find details of that on page 6 of the Daily Independent of this morning. Still on the Daily Independent is this one. Digital switch over ends in the balance after 19 billion allocation. Details of that is on the front page of the Daily Independent. You find it to read there. Local government poll. Court orders Rivers State, I think, Electoral Commission to use 2023 voters register. You find details of that on the front page of the Daily Independent to page 6 of the
let's go sports this morning. Punch Sport Extra is here, and of course, in the front page of the Punch Sport Extra, you find 8 top performers in 2024-25 NPFL season. You find the pictures of the players right there, and of course, you might also want to check if your own team has a player in the list of 8 top performers right there in the Punch newspaper. You also find here Gala lament Osimen's injury. By the time he has his first goal for the club now, maybe having to spend a few time on the sideline. Spurs humiliate 10-man Devils at Old Trafford. Some would say Manchester sees red or saw red against Spurs. Of course, just playing on the words and the conversation around what should happen at that club is also something to have for those who are really interested in Manchester United. You find some of their fans now denouncing the club, but hey, could be just a sleep or what you call it. All right, let's check others in the Punch Sport Extra quickly. The 19 Women's World Cup. Aruna reaches WTT China's match round of 32. Of course, I also know that we have the Sporting Sun here this morning. The Sporting Sun says Ndidi topples Bukayo Saka to become Premier League assist master. Ndidi this season, getting the assist for his club. Man City, find Arsenal overtakes Man City as Premier League title favourites as Hotz slashed on Gunners' success. Slots, that's Liverpool manager, says too soon to talk title chances. Let's find more here in the papers. Results of matches played in the Nigeria Premier Football League. And of course, you also know, in case you do not know, that Sunshine Stars were victorious in the weekend game against Akwa United right there in Uyo. And of course, hoping to build momentum going forward into this season. But let's see how that will be for Sunshine Stars and of course the fans who are here in Ondo State. That's it from the world of sports. Shadi.
All right, thank you for taking us through that. It was just right through the world of sports. And congratulations to the Sunshine Stars for that win. All right, we take a short break now, and when we return, it will be time for discussion of the day. Don't go away.
Leadership is not a package where you take it and say, here it is, I give you the package. Leadership comes from what you do, how you do it, how you live, what have you acquired in terms of your training, your experience, your track record, and all that. And what I'm saying is that the young people must strive. They shouldn't expect it to be a parcel delivered by DHL to them. And they must know that nothing comes just for nothing. You work for it.
Glad to know you're still with us on AM today. Yes, before we went to that break, we told you that we're going to be dwelling on to Legal Corner today. And our focus for today, we're going to be talking about taking a look at our VDM, that is Very Dark Man, Martins Otise, the allegations that he posed against Bobby Risky, the Falanos, and the law, yes, in the face of the law. That's what we'll be looking at today. And to discuss this with us is Mr. Tunde Akingbondiri. Yes, he's a recent graduate of law. Yes, it's a lawyer in the making, and is very versed. Is a city person and also an author. I've forgotten the title of your book again, but then good morning, and it's nice to have you on the show.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, we're looking at, the whole drama started when Very Dark Man released that audio, leaked the audio of the conversation between Bobby Risky and one man, where it was talking about how he had to pay. He or she had to pay 15 million naira so that some of the charges against him by the EFCC could be dropped when he was being charged to court. And from there, the fire was ignited and the conversation began. And it's still on. Let me say the fight is still on. In the face of the law, a lot of arguments online anyway. Some lawyers are claiming, what if it was a brief, between Bobby Risky and the Falanos. Some were saying a lot of things. What is your own view about the leaking of that audio, for instance? Let's take it from there because there's a whole lot of issue. The leaking of that audio, isn't it a kind of infringement on another person's right to privacy?
The right to privacy has actually stated under Section 37 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Actually safeguards Nigerians from actually being maybe invaded with respect to their privacy. And that's one of the issues on the neck of Very Dark Man, as a citizen of this country whose rights should not supersede that of any other citizen, because the Constitution is expressed in respect to the privacy of everybody in this system. But it is extremely disappointing that someone like Very Dark Man can start masquerading as a human rights activist who is entitled to the right of or the freedom of expression, as a matter of fact. The fact is, he's thriving on a band of, let's say, barbarians on the social media who tend to explore and exploit situations like this. They also thrive on it. There are people, someone like Professor Wole Soyinka described as barbarians. They are hungry and angry, and they tend to thrive on any scandal that they can actually see online. So that is what is actually happening. But when we look deeply into this, I support the fact that Very Dark Man has actually done some good things with respect to actually exposing and maybe recovering money for some people online. But this one, there are a lot of issues attached to it. You have the freedom of expression, you can express your opinion, but there are restrictions to that freedom. You don't just leverage on the kind of knowledge people have of you on the social media, and you start lampooning people, you start invading people's privacy, and at the same time trying to make people believe, oh, these people are bad, when you don't even have glaring facts to back what you're saying.
Okay, actually, if I may summarize from your thoughts on this, you're trying to say that Very Dark Man does not qualify to be a human rights activist. Is it self-acclaimed? Do you have to have special kind of qualification before you can fight for the rights of others?
Well, I'm not downplaying the fact that it's into activism. Anybody can indulge in that, but before you launch out at people, you must actually get to find out about things you like to challenge them on. If you call yourself an activist and all you do is lampooning people on baseless grounds, or at the same time championing some kind of media agendas against people without actually having a verifiable point to prove, then it makes you somehow it makes you irrelevant in the scheme of things, and it makes you look like a cloud chaser. So I don't think he must have done some, maybe little of activism, but he has not qualified to be an activist in my own estimation, because all he has been doing over the years is chasing clout, and activism is beyond chasing clout. It's beyond trying to gather, followers on the social media, trying to, feast on people's ignorance, by leveraging on many of those porous perspectives, as a matter of fact.
Okay, like he says, okay, for instance, after mentioning of the Falanas in the case, and they responded that he has to retract, those allegations within 24 hours. The Falanas chambers, Falanas replied that he has to retract it within 12 hours. And his own lawyer, that's Otis's very dark man's lawyer, now went ahead to say, come on, instead of trying to sue him, for disparaging your person, why don't you look at the allegations that he has brought up? You understand, and that's the same thing I want us to look at this morning. Let's not look at if he's qualified to raise the alarm or not. Let's look at the sound of the alarm, for instance. Saying that Bobrisky paid 15 million naira to drop some of the charges of EFCC against him, especially the one that borders on money laundering. What do you have to say about that?
He has actually raised grave issues, and that warrant attention, as a matter of fact. But the fact that people are trying to say, oh, we should not, come for very dark man, we should just go for Bobrisky, who is claimed to have actually said many of those things, is to me, it justifies the fact that people have acute lack of the knowledge of.
So it's not even about going after Bobrisky; it's about going after the allegations, if they were.
And before we go after the allegation, we must first talk about the person who has brought the allegation. Does he have verifiable facts to back this thing up? That is the first thing. And he himself has actually said, oh, people should have gone for Bobrisky, who actually made this allegation, instead of coming for him. But I think this justifies the fact that he has an acute, lack of the knowledge of the law of libel. Because when you make some, claims, you must be able to tell us, your facts. You must be able to convince us that you know what you are saying. Now he has come to the public to say, oh, these people were involved in this. Bobrisky paid 15 million to evade imprisonment, and that Falana actually, requested for 10 million naira to get a presidential pardon for, Bobrisky, as a matter of fact. These are grave allegations. He has the burden of proving if these things are actually correct or not, or if they are true or not, is on his neck.
But Mr. Akibode, when you talk about the burden of proving, a lot of people will say that is a matter for the law courts, if it should go that length. Because when you look at the allegations and the basis he has brought it forth, he has a video, audio recording, he has played it for the generality of the people, and I also saw the video where Very Dark Man said, look, I'm putting all of this out so that the FCC chairman can launch an investigation into this, can, get to the root of all of this matter. If it now appears that after all of the investigations, these allegations are wrong, that is a different ball game. Perhaps we now start talking about the consequences of what he has done, of the gravity of what he has done. But he has not backtracked on the allegation and the claim he has made. And of course, these are claims that are worth looking at, don't you think?
The gravity of any claim is in the truism of that claim. And that's what we should consider. And that's why I feel so bad about the way people are taking this in the media. Because they've not even gone deep into the concept of those allegations to get to discover if they are true or not. If someone that is
a concept that can only be reviewed by investigation. If it does not, if you don't get a revelation through investigation, perhaps it now puts you to the law court.
And that is
the parties are likely to go to that length.
That is what the players in this allegation have explored, as a matter of fact. That is the option they've explored. If you had made an allegation which some people have deemed to be defamatory, the best thing to do is to take you to court so that you can come and prove those allegations. And the fact that they're saying, oh, he only broadcasted these allegations and that there's someone somewhere who has actually made this statement, it justifies the fact that he has an acute, lack of knowledge of libel. If someone has made or written a statement, and you have come, the idea of writing something is not even punishable under the law. If you've actually written a defamatory statement or remark, nobody punishes you. But when someone now comes to broadcast this, so-called defamatory statement to the public, that third parties can actually have access to those defamations, that is when, you can be punished. Take for an example, when someone makes defamatory claims and that were published by, a newspaper, you don't go ahead and sue the person who actually wrote the statement. You go ahead and sue the newspaper because it was the newspaper that gave the platform, for the publication of those things to a wide, population of people, because a newspaper is expected to have access to a large population. So now, Very Dark Man has become a medium for the publication of those, defamations. And there are three ingredients of defamation. One is that it must be defamatory, the so-called claims must be defamatory. The second is that it must be published to a wide population. And that is that is the gravity of the defamation. That is what Very Dark Man has done.
It does not appear he's running away from whatever it is coming, whether it is lawsuit, whether it is being subjected to investigation.
To prove defamation goes beyond grandstanding.
That's what I'm saying.
It must have been grandstanding.
If we'll see how that plays out in the long run, whether it will be a matter for the law court, he will be invited, and of course, a case will be set in running for us to even determine. And perhaps if eventually these allegations are false, we get to see the consequences so that others who might want to toe that line to make broadcast of allegations they are not sure of will say, look, there was a very so person who had done this, and this was the consequence.
I'm sure you are aware of the fact that the internet is subject to a lot of manipulations nowadays. If Bobrisky has come to say, oh, this audio conversation was actually doctored, that it was AI generated, how do you see that? Don't you see that, okay, there are contrasting...
Can do analysis.
Forensic.
And that's why we are going to court now.
Of course.
To deal with many of those matters. A lot of tests are going to be
Okay,
carried.
let's even leave the issue of defamation aside now, but let's look at the issue of bribery here. The claim that Bobrisky bribed the FCC with 15 million naira. I mean, to drop charges. Is that how it works?
Is it new to you?
Yes, is it legal?
When Nigerians say they are familiar with getting some of these statements of bribery, corruption in our institutions.
No, that is not...
doctor, charges against suspects.
That's not strange. And in fact, this is what we've gotten, or that we've been dealing with over the years in the country. But I want to be aware of the fact that the EFCC too is not actually insulated from many of those allegations. We have very corrupt people in the system, but they leave those people and come for young people who are into fraud, who are into a lot of things. These are issues in our institutions, and that we must consistently be aware of and have the understanding of. But at the point I felt bad about the fact that EFCC wanted to launch an investigation into this matter. If EFCC, an institution who is at the center of this allegation, is saying they want to launch an investigation into the matter, it shows they actually want to be a judge in their own cause. It is only an independent platform, or an independent panel that can launch an investigation into an allegation that involves the EFCC. And then I want us to be aware of the fact that these allegations are still baseless until we can prove them. EFCC is still innocent until we can successfully prove that truly they must have gotten some millions of naira to actually throw away maybe the money and laundering aspect of things and all. So I don't want us to rush so that we don't preempt, and that is what the social media has been bombarded with over the weeks, because people tend to they preempt instead of actually doing some independent investigation to know if these allegations are actually true or not.
But sadly, just like you mentioned, you talk about the place of an independent panel to launch an investigation. But the EFCC says it's already going ahead with the investigation.
The investigation is baseless.
So if that should be the case for the EFCC, even though we've not had the feedback on that, it's days already. If the EFCC comes out to say, look, maybe we've not found any officer culpable, or we are still looking into it, or perhaps we might not even get to hear anything going forward.
No, but now something has overridden that, because the federal government, by the Ministry of Interior, has actually constituted a panel, an independent panel, to actually look into the matter. But the so-called investigation by EFCC is not what should be actually rated in any way.
I was actually going there. The concern of the Ministry of Interior in this matter is, thankfully, the Honorable Minister, has suspended some top officials that he believed may be related to the issue. Now let's look at it in the Nigerian society, when someone has been sentenced to serve a jail term, and then you have VIP sections, or even the person spending the jail term outside of the premises of the prison walls, serving jail terms in some lounges. What do you make of it, of the Nigerian society and the legal process? Because justice is served when that person actually serves the jail term.
Realities like this are actually rubbish our justice system, and it is sad that we are in this kind of situation in this country where we cannot even, predict of our justice system. Because if someone has been convicted and is expected to actually endure the gulag of the prison, but at the end of the day you get to discover that the person is outside enjoying somewhere, or trying to actually, evade or sabotage the system, the justice system. It shows we are not serious enough in this country, and it calls to question our systems. We must learn to actually learn from other superior platforms, get to learn or take a cue from some other countries that are doing well in terms of actually sustaining their justice system. And we must continue to advocate for the due process, because that is how we can sustain the future of this country and rescue it from the kind of the morass and the scandal that has taken over the years. Why people cannot buoyantly say this is not this, because we've actually had snippets of issues like this in time past, and we've gotten to deal with over the years. But it is time we actually think of changing, because I don't even see a basis for VIP sessions in the prison. We are all the same. We are expected to be equal. But if you have some people who are actually enduring a kind of preferential treatment and all in our prisons, it shows we are not serious enough. If politicians have to endure or enjoy, a VIP session, what makes a prisoner? All of them are inmates. What makes an inmate better or superior to the other? In the animal farm, all animals are expected to be equal, and not for some and different. So I think we have to rule out the idea of a VIP session, so that we don't have opportunities for people to evade a prison. But this allegation is still an allegation until it is proven to be true.
How well would you? How far-reaching do you think this probe should go? These investigations, because Nigerians will also tell you they are not unaware of instances where government has said we'll launch investigation into incidences, and feedbacks are usually sometimes not existent. You've also find, just like you mentioned, the suspension of some officers of the Nigerian Correctional Service. Some Nigerians tell you by the time these people will resume back to their duty posts, nobody would care. And it's not just the suspension that has just made the news. How far-reaching do you think this should go? Because law enforcement agency, the judiciary is also in the mix. You also find the correctional service. A lot of persons are even talking about the need to also have a look critically at our prisons reforms, our correctional centers reforms, where you have prisons that are surrounded by various homes, by businesses, by outlets in a crowded place. How far-reaching should all of this go?
Well, I think our prisons need to be actually reformed, because to some extent, Nigerian prisons are meant to break people instead of actually reforming them or rehabilitating them. And that is really sad. That is why we have these experiences, and all our our prison system is not doing well. And it starts with the system, because in situations where we have politicians who have been actually taken to court, for various criminal offenses, for various corruption-related matters, and they want to enjoy preferential treatment by the time they are sent to prison. You don't expect much. Or you see pastors who have been praying for politicians, by the time they are sent to prison, politicians come to even see them inside the prison to consult them in respect to spiritual matters and all. We've had situations like that in the country. If we still have situations like this, and we are not looking at actually finding a kind of uniform system for everybody in our prisons, when you have people who are being broken by prison instead of being reformed, it shows the system is not serious. And I keep on saying it. Even the Minister of Interior, as at now, there was an allegation against him in respect to his involvement in some, corruption-related matters. Till now, we've not even found a single, report from a panel that was constituted to actually look into allegations against him. And I'm sure you are aware of this. But that's not the issue. I'm not calling to question his integrity in respect to actually making sure the players in those corruption allegations are brought to book and or justice. But I'm just saying that the system must be serious enough. It is because the system is not serious enough. That is why people find it difficult to trust the system. But if we can successfully make sure things work, but I know people are really interested in this matter, and then the Minister of Interior will not joke with justice on this matter, because the integrity of our prisons administration has been called to question, and if we are serious enough, the truth must be unraveled.
Yes, so everybody, all eyes are open and waiting for the truth to be unraveled. And I recently, during the swearing-in of the CJN of Nigeria, that's talking about Justice Kekere, one of the first things she said was that she's going to make sure that people who are in the habit of analyzing, cases before the courts and things like that are brought to book. But as you mentioned, the belief in our justice system and all of that, don't you think is one of the reasons that is failing, Jonathan, that is powering individuals, even like a very dark man, to go ahead to comment on issues or to bring matters to fore so that issues would not be swept under the carpet?
Legally, nobody is expected to actually preempt the court by giving opinions on matters that have been rendered sub judice, as a matter of fact. And I think the Chief Justice is on the right track with that kind of... but there are some judgments, actually, that call to question the integrity of our justice system. Take one example, the decision of the Supreme Court with respect to the capacity of our former Senate President to remain in the Senate, when he was not even a participant in an election that was said to have actually delivered him, as a matter of fact. Cases like that have actually called the integrity of our justice system to question, and you cannot stop people from expressing themselves in respect to those topical issues or matters, particularly that have been subjected to our court, as a matter of fact. But legally, it is wrong to give opinions on issues that have been rendered sub judice. But the Chief Justice must also be aware that a court that is going to stop people from actually exploring into cases must actually be perfect. They must bring issues that are justiciable. They must make sure justice comes to play in every of the decisions that come to play in our courts. That's the best way to shoot people out of preempting courts, of trying to downplay the integrity of the court, or trying to even cast aspersions on the court with respect to decisions. The court must sustain the twin principles of natural justice to make sure that does not happen.
The two principles of natural justice, which are?
the audio authoring pattern na modules in course as well, which is that you are expected to hear both sides and that you are not expected to be a judge in your own cause and all. You must sustain the principles of justice.
All right, thank you very much for sharing your thought with us today on this matter, and that's something to Mr. Tunde Akinmodiri. Yes, for sharing your view on this matter, and the matter is quite elaborate. Different angles to it, and the conversation continues. But thank you very much for coming today, and I really appreciate you. My dear viewer, this is how much we will take on this section of the interview. We're going to take a short break now, and when we return, yes, we'll still be talking on similar matter. Do not go.
Leadership is not a package where you take it and say, here it is, I give you the package. Leadership comes from what you do, how you do it, how you live, what have you acquired in terms of your training, your experience, your track record, and all that. And what I'm saying is that the young people must strive. They shouldn't expect it to be a parcel delivered by DHL to them. And they must know that nothing comes just for nothing. You work for it.
promised before we went on that break that when we return, we'll still on the legal forum, we'll still be looking at a topic that relates to the law. And we're going to be focusing on equality before the law. In Nigeria, does this really obtain using the instance of the very dark man and Bobrisky saga? So we'll be talking about, and some other instances too where the rule of law has been swept under the carpet in Nigeria. And to discuss this with us this morning is Barrister Abiola Oluwu. It's nice to have you join us via telephone this morning, Barrister Abiola.
Good morning.
Yes, good morning. Yes, I said in the animal farm, all animals are equal, but then even in the very George Orwell book where that particular phrase, became popularized, some animals were more equal than the others, and certainly in the Nigerian society, this seems to be what obtains. So, is this supposed to be so?
Well, everyone is equal under the law. We are not living in a George Orwell's book. We are Nigerians, and there is a rule of law. The law is nobody's supposed to be above the law. So, the recent trend of Nigerians, the Supreme Court orders, not honoring investigation invitations and all of that. It's just people trying to show that the trend now is for them that they are above the law, which is not supposed to be so. There is a rule of law. The law is supposed to be respected. When you are summoned by the court of law, you're supposed to show. Like I said before, we're not living in George Orwell's book, so no one is no one is more equal than other. All of us are equal under the law in Nigeria.
All of us are equal under the law in Nigeria, so says the book. We are not, are we? But then what danger does this portend for us as the people in Nigeria? Because the law ought to be the last hope of the masses. But where it is not so, or what happens in such a society?
Well, you can be rest assured that where can go, people can. It's right now. It's still in a matter of disobeying court orders, refusing to show up for invitation to police investigation and all of that. But what happens where people refuse to be prosecuted for criminal acts? This only gives room for anarchy in the society. Everybody knows that people are getting away with disobeying the law and going against the law. So everybody start doing it because I have a backing or I have a godfather. We decide if someone can get away with it and there's no consequences, then others will follow suit. And where a nation where the law is not effective, you know what will happen to that kind of nation. There will be anarchy. That is just it.
I would have loved to ask that. Let's probe into the matter a little further. What brought about this situation that we're currently in the country right now, that people found it so easy to disregard the rule of law? Because anyway, it's even the rich, the affluent, the elites that are prone to disobeying court orders, because the poor man on the street who stole some tubers of yam had his sentencing and he served his jail term and all that. But when it comes to the political arena, celebrities and the like, then the rules are changed. How did we get here?
In my opinion, I feel like the problem is the fact that the judiciary doesn't have enough independence and autonomy. The judiciary is not independent enough in Nigeria. It is so easy for the other arms of government to influence the decisions of the judiciary. And so, if that is going on, then it is easy for the rich, the affluent, to use their influence with these other arms, personnel in these other arms of government, to influence the decisions of the judiciary. Like you said, a poor man will find it very difficult to disobey the rule of law. A Ipoma will find it very difficult to do things like disobeying court order because there's no backing for him. He's going to be carried by police and imprisoned for that kind of act. But when it comes to the rich, because they have influence among the other arms of government that can easily influence this judiciary as it is now in Nigeria. So it is that's what makes it possible for the rich and the affluent to be able to do all of these acts and get away with it. The judiciary is not independent enough, in my opinion.
Interestingly, the conversation from now until tomorrow or the next, all through Nigeria's 64th independence anniversary, and now the question around the independence of the judiciary. So, where do we begin this long walk? I wouldn't know how long it will be. This work, let me put it that way, for the independence, or that true independence of the judiciary in Nigeria, so that we can perhaps now give hope to people who are really hoping to have it.
And not practical enough, but I want to say I feel like the first step is for us as Nigerians that will be getting to the leadership positions to actually be ready to move the country forward first. Because it is people that make the law. It is people that are in the House of Assembly that dictate what. It is people that allow the law to be smoothly executed. It is people that allow the law, the kind of laws and provisions that will make the judiciary independent. It is people that make this law. It is people that will allow it to be smoothly carried out. So at the end of the day, it still starts with us as individuals in Nigeria. We have to first of all be ready to allow the country move forward. And when we're ready for that, then we will put in place structures to ensure that the judiciary is independent. It's people that are in these aims of affair that will ensure that the judiciary is independent. It's people that make these decisions, Nigerians. So until we are actually ready to set aside selfishness in Nigeria, I mean, our leaders, but I don't like to always put the burden on the leaders, Nigerians generally, because people that are not leaders today will still be leaders tomorrow. Until we are ready to actually put away selfishness and build a nation that works, then the judiciary can be independent. We can make laws from today till tomorrow. If there are no people there to ensure that these laws are followed strictly,
So maybe with the issue or with the allegation that has been raised by Vincent to say the conversation or the saga around Bobrisky and the likes, maybe this is a good time for Nigerians to now start, thinking or following suit in your aspirations that you've shared for us to have that true independence, particularly in the judiciary. What sort of accountability do you think this conversation or this issue, this saga, should be raising in the minds of Nigerians going forward? Perhaps this is a point. Could this be a turning point for us to start getting it right? Because you've had investigations launched, we've had panels being set up, we've had promises that we'll look into all of the rot. Could this be a time for Nigerians to really get to have that voice or that perception that yes, for things to work, we have to also be part of the process?
I feel like this could be a time. Be like a stepping stone for us to have that keep the ball to start keep the ball rolling. If Nigerian voices are allowed to be heard in this matter without bias, because investigations are still going on, we can't say who is really really making allegations that are not true, what is true and all of that. Investigations are still going on. I'm not even in a position to know what the result of the investigations are. But if this case is allowed to be made open, like the investigation is made open, feedback are given to Nigeria openly, we see the court process, the court is actually allowed to take on the matter in accordance with the evidence provided by investigators and allowed to rule on the matter judiciously without any influence, any outside influence, then this could actually be a starting point, sort of. It might not be enough to have enormous effects, but it should be something.
All right. Some of the allegations are raised in that is Bobrisky claiming to have to want to pay or to have paid 10 million naira to the Falanons to help him obtain presidential pardon. Is that supposed to be the process? Do you need to pay to obtain presidential pardon?
Well, there's nothing like paying to obtain presidential pardon. It is something that even you don't even have to have a lawyer to be able to apply for a presidential pardon on behalf of someone. You don't have to be a lawyer. So saying someone is paying to obtain presidential pardon, unless you are paying a lawyer for his services of writing on your behalf, like taking on the services of a lawyer and wanting them to write on your behalf, that is different. But saying you're paying to be able to get the process approved, that is illegal.
Okay. In other words, Mr. Biola, what you're saying is that it doesn't have to be a lawyer to even draft the pardon.
To apply for a pardon for someone.
Yes.
So, but these are still allegations to be true. So, but if they are proven to be true, then I mean, paying to ensure that that pardon is granted, that is illegal. But like I said, they are just allegations right now, not something that has been proven to be true.
All right. One more thing is having VIP sections in our correctional homes, Nigerian correctional homes, VIP sections. What does this, what's the impact this is going to have on the cause of the law?
Having VIP section in correct, I mean, it would be reasonable if we have sessions for maybe witness protection or protection for some certain set of people because of the nature of the case.
Nature of the case, not their status, right?
Not because of their status, maybe because of the nature of the case or okay, maybe the status of the person, but in the case where being used with other prisoners would probably put the person in danger. I don't know if you understand, man. Not because the person is influential and should be given better treatment than other prisoners. I mean, we are all equal under the law. So if someone is going to be given a separate, if someone is going to be imprisoned in a separate with separated from other prisoners, it should be because of the circumstances surrounding the case, not because the person is influential or anything like that. Maybe because in order to ensure that this person is not attacked in prison, or because of the circumstances surrounding the case and witness protection and all of that.
Mr. Biola, I wouldn't know. From the vantage point that you practitioner, perhaps you've also had this thought before, just like some Nigerians have had it or are still having it, that look, you find some cases on the surface or their appearance that appears to be on the, well, crime is crime, they say, but it appears to be on the softer side when it comes to, or when it is compared to some other cases that has huge impacts on the lives and property of people. But when you find the judgments, when you find the pronouncements in these two instances, you now begin to ask the questions. Does this really capture the enormity of the crime that has been committed? Have you ever had that thought? What do you think should be responsible for that?
A lot of time, we realize that Nigerian law still has to be, needs a lot of reforming. Because it's almost like we copy and pasted most of our laws. They are not, how do I say, tailor-made for the situations in Nigeria. The kind of crimes that are committed in Nigeria. And the kind of punishment that should also come with those crimes. Considering that Nigeria is different from other nations. I've always had that thought. And I feel like Nigerian laws should be reformed.
Where should we start pushing that conversation from?
Yeah.
Well, if criminal laws in Nigeria need to be reformed, then the people responsible for ensuring that these reforms take place will listen one day and ensure that the reformations are carried out.
All right. Looking at things.
Papers and stating your opinions in
Yes, looking at what causes criminality sometimes, you want to look at, because sometimes there are things that are not are allowed, permitted under the Nigerian law, and yet we have them in the society. For instance, let's look at the brand itself, the name or the brand Bobrisky itself, appearing as a cross-dresser and also proclaiming to be a transgender person. Is this constitutional in the country? Is it legal?
It is not unconstitutional in Nigeria. There's a law against homosexuality, not against cross-dressing. So that is where I know as Nigerians we have bias against anything LGBTQ, cross-dressing, and all of that. But we have to see, no matter what kind of bias we have, our feelings, opinions about it, this rule of law still has to prevail. So the brand, except it's claiming to be homosexual, which is a crime under Nigerian thing, I don't think there's any form of legal action that can bring for this brand.
Okay, but
the moral message being passed is not something that Nigerians are okay with. But still, the rule of law still has to prevail.
All right, perhaps we will close this conversation by getting your thoughts, Barrister, on looking at or perhaps what we're also talking about, equality before the law. The CJN just sworn in recently by the just got confirmed by the Senate recently, and of course we listened to what she also said after that confirmation by the Senate about what she to stop the issue of conflicting judges, barring people or lawyers from speaking on cases that are subject this and all of that. But when it comes to this equality before the law, how do you think the Chief Justice of Nigeria should lead the charge? Is this something she can do?
Puts her mind to it. I mean, normally there are already laws that ensure that the Constitution, all of that ensure that there should be equality before the law in the first place. So if she can work with those and has the mind to actually do it, I think it's something with the right people working with her. I think it's something that can happen.
We hope it happens, because
I also hope it happens.
Let's hope it happens. The country does not get thrown into anarchy, as she said. All right, thank you very much, Barrister Abiola Olowu, for sharing your on the end today. We sincerely appreciate you. Thank you very much. Of your day. All right, dear viewer, this is how much we'll be taking on the show this morning. And from Said?
Yes, Monday, start of a brand new week, and of course so much to look into, particularly as the new chapter will unfold tomorrow. But we'll be back on Wednesday to share more. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Said Salah. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Yes, what a good day and a good way to start the week. Well, as you move into the week, just keep focused on your targets and avoid distractions. That way, you'll be able to achieve a lot. Thank you very much once again for joining us. My name is Folashade Gideon saying, I'll see you on Wednesday. Bye.
Leadership is not a package where you take it and say, here it is, I give you the package. Leadership comes from what you do, how you do it, how you live, what have you acquired in terms of your training, your experience, your track record, and all that. And what I'm saying is that the young people must strive. They shouldn't expect it to be a parcel delivered by DHL to them. And they must know that nothing comes for nothing. You work for it.